The intel that didn't fit. Market Garden was supposed to end the war in weeks. The plan looked brilliant: seize a chain of bridges, punch into Germany, and crack the Ruhr. But there's a riddle at the center of it, because while Allied commanders were promising a lightning victory, Allied intelligence was whispering a warning that could ruin the entire operation. And then something even stranger happened. Pieces of that warning existed in multiple channels: ultra intercepts, Dutch resistance reports, even aerial photos, yet the plan went forward anyway. If the Allies had the secret advantage of reading German messages, why did they jump into the trap at Arnhem? September 1944, victory, and a supply crisis. By early September 1944, the Western Allies are racing across France after the breakout from Normandy. Paris is liberated. German forces are reeling. On maps, it looks like collapse. But behind the front line, the war is being decided by trucks, fuel cans, and port capacity. The Allied armies are outrunning their supply lines. Rail networks are wrecked. Bridges are down. The nearest major ports are either still in German hands or not fully usable. Antwerp has been captured, but its access, the Scheldt estuary, is still contested, meaning the port is effectively closed until the approaches are cleared. Every mile deeper into Belgium and the Netherlands stretches the logistical rubber band tighter. This is where Market Garden is born, a high-stakes shortcut to bypass the slow grind of supply build-up and smash into Germany before the Wehrmacht can rebuild a coherent line. The key players: ambition, rivalry, and the clock. Three personalities dominate the decision. Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander, is balancing coalition politics and competing strategies. He favors a broad front advance, steady pressure along the line, partly to avoid gambling the war on a single thrust. Bernard Montgomery, commanding 21st Army Group, wants exactly that single thrust, one concentrated blow through the Netherlands into the Ruhr. Montgomery believes boldness can end the war quickly, and he also wants a decisive victory under his command. Hello, listener, let me know where you're watching from. And if you don't mind subscribing to the channel and giving it a like, I'd be very pleased as the author. Enjoy listening. Walter Bedell Smith and SHAEF planners are managing the daily reality, fuel allocation, bridge repair, and the chaos of an advancing front. On the intelligence side are ultra handlers, staff officers in the intelligence pipeline, and field formations receiving Dutch reports. But intelligence in World War II isn't a magic oracle. It's fragments, delays, security rules, and interpretation. And in September 1944, interpretation is everything. The plan: one road, many bridges, zero slack. Market Garden combines two operations. Market: airborne landings by American, British, and Polish airborne forces to seize key bridges: Eindhoven, Nijmegen, and Arnhem. Garden: a ground thrust led by XXX Corps racing up a single raised road to link up with the airborne troops. The whole scheme relies on timing. The airborne troops must hold bridges long enough for armor to arrive. The ground column must move fast, without major delays. But the plan has a built-in fragility. It is essentially a supply convoy and an armored spearhead moving on one narrow highway, later nicknamed Hell's Highway. If the road is cut, the advance stalls. If a bridge is blown, the timetable collapses. And most dangerously, if strong German units are near Arnhem, the British 1st Airborne Division could be isolated at the far end of the corridor, too far to be rescued quickly. The decision point: why ignore Ultra? So where does Ultra come in? Ultra, the Allied program exploiting German Enigma communications, often provided high-value intelligence, unit movements, alerts, and operational chatter. For Market Garden, the disputed question is not did Ultra say Arnhem would fail? It's subtler. Did Allied intelligence provide enough warning of serious German strength near Arnhem, and was that warning discounted? One interpretation is that there were signals and reports indicating SS Panzer units, notably elements associated with two SS Panzer Corps, were refitting in or near the Arnhem area. There were also aerial reconnaissance photos that, in hindsight, show armor presence. Dutch resistance reports pointed to German units regrouping. But the intelligence pipeline had problems. Compartmentalization, ultra was tightly controlled. Not everyone who needed the warning could be told the source, and sometimes the message was diluted into vague phrasing. Ambiguity, refitting units might be assumed weak, short of fuel, or incapable of rapid counterattack. Confirmation bias, commanders wanted to believe German resistance was crumbling. After weeks of pursuit, that belief felt proven. Operational momentum, once airborne loading schedules, aircraft allocations, and troop concentrations are set, stopping is politically and logistically hard. So the ignored intelligence wasn't necessarily a single, screaming red alert. It was a cluster of inconvenient indicators, easy to rationalize away when the prize looked so close. Immediate consequences, Arnhem tightens like a noose. Market Garden begins on September 17, 1944 with dramatic airborne drops. Early success is real, several bridges are taken, and the corridor begins to form. But problems appear fast. At Nijmegen, delays in seizing the bridge cost precious hours. XXX Corps cannot move at the speed the plan demands. German counterattacks begin slicing at the single road. At Arnhem, the British 1st Airborne Division runs into unexpectedly stiff resistance. Communications fail. Units become scattered. The crucial Arnhem Bridge is reached by a fraction of the force, and they end up isolated. Meanwhile, German command, though shocked by the scale of the airborne landings, reacts with speed. Local commanders improvise. Ad hoc battle groups form. Armor and infantry are pushed into blocking positions. Here's the brutal logic: the farther the operation extends, the more German forces can attack its sides. Market Garden isn't just a thrust, it's a long, thin lifeline begging to be cut. The cost, men, time, and a war that didn't end. The true cost of this decision was horrific. The Allies suffer heavy losses, especially among airborne troops. The British 1st Airborne Division is devastated. Arnhem becomes synonymous with sacrifice and isolation. Strategically, the failure means the Allies do not cross the Rhine in 1944 at that point. The war in the West drags into winter. The Germans gain time to stabilize defenses and rebuild coherence. There is also a political and psychological cost. Market Garden had been sold as a war-shortening stroke. Its failure becomes a lesson in the limits of boldness when logistics and intelligence don't align. And in the background, another consequence grows. The longer the war continues, the more room there is for German counteroffensives, culminating in the Ardennes later that year. Real alternatives, what could they have done instead? Historians debate the alternatives, but several plausible options existed. 1. Clear the Scheldt earlier to open Antwerp, solving the supply crisis and enabling a stronger, sustained advance. This is often cited as the most practical, less glamorous solution. 2. A shorter airborne operation, seize fewer bridges, reduce the corridor length, and avoid the farthest, most exposed objective at Arnhem. 3. Delay and concentrate, wait for more supplies, more artillery, and better intelligence confirmation, then force the Rhine at a different point with stronger ground support. But every alternative has trade-offs. Clearing the Scheldt takes time and casualties. Delaying allows the Germans to fortify. A smaller operation might not deliver the decisive breakthrough Montgomery wanted. Market Garden's appeal was that it promised to solve multiple problems at once: supply, speed, and strategy, by one dramatic leap. Myths and controversies. Was ULTRA really ignored? This is where the story becomes contested. Some accounts emphasize that warning signs were present, especially about armored formations near Arnhem, and that key decision-makers downplayed them. A famous line attributed to an intelligence officer insisting there were tanks near Arnhem is often repeated, though the exact wording and how it was received varies by source. Other historians argue the picture was not so clear at the time. Ultra-intercepts might indicate unit presence but not readiness. German units could be under strength but still dangerous in defensive fighting. Airborne doctrine itself assumed rapid ground relief. The plan's timetable was the real Achilles heel. A document that is still being debated is not always a single paper, it's the broader record, signals, summaries, reconnaissance interpretations, and who read what, when. One consistent conclusion across many studies: intelligence was not absent. The failure was in integration, turning fragments into operational restraint. Segment 10, Conclusion, the warning you can't use. The riddle from the beginning remains haunting because it's not just why didn't they listen. It's what does it mean to listen when the information is partial, politically sensitive, and operationally inconvenient. Market Garden shows how even a military superpower can stumble when optimism outruns logistics and when intelligence doesn't fit the plan already chosen. Ultra could reveal pieces of the enemy's shape, but it couldn't force commanders to abandon a gamble that felt like the fastest route to victory. Arnhem became the symbol of that gamble, brave men dropped at the far end of a timetable that could not survive friction. And in the end, the Allies learned a lesson as old as war itself: speed is a weapon, but certainty is a myth.